That
So
right?
good.
Yeah.
So
All right, welcome. We're getting hyped up over here. Welcome, everyone. We are live in South Dakota, Deadwood, South Dakota. And if you guys are tuning in, you're probably like, the background's probably a little bit different than my regular background because we are live on location with this individual, Matt Lee. Thank you so much for coming and being on the show today and greeting the Outpost Gray community.
It's been a very long time coming.
Yeah,
We've been talking about this for 2 years, so here we sit.
Yeah, we might have planned this to happen, but it's all about timing. This is all meant to be, and I'm really excited about some of the topics we're going to be talking about. So before we jump in, some of you may not know Matt, so I have got to do an intro for this amazing human here. So thrilled to have Matt on. He is a director of security and compliance at PAX 8. That's PAX 8. On top of all of that, he also has the coveted CISSP, the CCSP. He's also a certified pen tester and member of InfraGard and the creator, we're going to be diving into this, of #LockItUp movement, which aims to inspire stronger security practices across the board. On top of all of that, he's a world-renowned speaker. So he's international over here, and he's going to be speaking at the Wild West Hacking Fest. He has over a decade in the cybersecurity game. He's also helped small and mid-sized businesses staying secure in a world where our digital landscape is always being attacked. And then last but certainly not least, he's also a husband and a father of 2 wonderful kids. I don't know how you do it all. And you travel literally all the time, all over the world. Like you're on 16 days straight right now of traveling.
I am. You know what's funny is people don't realize how hard it is to sit and listen to somebody say such nice things about them that are probably mostly hyped up. So if you don't know, it's tough. But no, to the point of the travel, we're on a 16-day trip. My wife and I, Kat, the Cyber Lees is kind of what we go by for a hashtag. We travel about 46 or so weeks a year.
It's wild.
And it's, 100, 150 flights a year, something, it's nuts. And the question is, how do you do it? Well, mission driven helps a lot. When the goal and the reason I do this isn't because I get paid or because I have a job, it's wonderful. But my mission is that if our kids and grandkids are going to have the same, experience with technology, that same virgin amazingness that changed our world, we've got to clean a lot of things up. We've got a lot of problems here, and we need to really lean into it. So that's my mission, and that makes it a lot easier, I think,
I love that.
You're take the hard mornings. Yeah.
So you're at, and we've got really quick, we've got to say hi to some people. Rhonda, so great to see you in chat. We've got my dancing girl. Wow, welcome, Matt Lee. Aw, you are getting a great welcome from the crew. So this is an executive level podcast. So I'd like to take a moment to kind of talk about, I think maybe first off, what you do in your role as a director for PAX 8, so they can kind of get familiar with you in that position. It's very unique in my opinion. Yeah, it's a weird one. Yeah, and I think more companies are starting to do things like this. But when I was owner of a managed service provider, right? So I owned a part owner of a managed service provider that served about 20,000 endpoints and 17,000 humans across 5 states, mostly small business, mostly 25, 30, 100 user environments, right? That's super below the cybersecurity poverty line, if you will. Right. And in that MSP, I was the director of security. I was named as the director of security. We were at about a $28 million revenue. And we bought a company that I now call Voldemort. What is it called?
Voldemort.
Because
I'm not going to use the name ever again.
Okay.
And this small MSP, $1 million transaction, cost us $3 million because of Soda Nokibi, our evil ransomware gang, while I was in charge. And what that did was it gave me a massive amount of drive, right, to be better in the way we were delivering service. I had written an email the 2 days before that said my single greatest fear was that we'd be the next MSP pwned in that way with all of our clients ransomed. And it happened to us. And I spent the next 18 months in lawsuits, dealing with federal authorities, dealing with the aftermath of clients that have been ransomed 3 times.
Wow.
This wasn't the first, this was the second and the third, and I'll get to a point here. But through that, I realized that there was a large gap in the knowledge space, especially in the SMB, small to mid-sized business, serving MSPs, managed service providers, right? And so I started realizing that at the same time, we were tired as practitioners of marketing crap. That's right. Marketing people out there, we're tired of the hyperbolous crap like stops all threats and fixes your day perfectly with one tool. Like
all the absolutes is what you're talking about. Yeah, there's broken. A lot of absolutes. You go with me, we'll fix everything.
Yeah. And so I'd made this pitch to a number of people in the managed service player space that people were tired of that, and they'd much rather have practitioners teaching and empowering and driving success. And if that were to happen, people would then buy from that organization. And it was this argument to say, let's drop the marketing hyperbole. Let's deal in actually teaching and empowering people to grow. And I obviously, in not being aggrandizingly, thought I would be a great role or person to fill that role that I was asking to be created. Several different people kind of took that and said, okay, you know, and if you see it in the enterprise world, right, you see it with like Nova4 and a lot of the evangelism stuff they've done there. Checkpoint's also crushing that, has been doing it for many years. And so in our space, it was really this proposal of, let me just go out and work with managed service providers, teach, work with different companies, be an advisor, and kind of go from that space. So my role is 100% almost advisory and evangelical. I do most of my things speaking and doing things like this, speaking at Wild West Hack and Fest. I do somewhere between 100 and 150 slide decks a year, probably, for presentations.
So you do new presentations every time. You don't like repeat.
Some. I have some repetitiveness and things that have really worked, especially for certain concepts. But I try to keep it fresh. And it's funny because Chris Roberts looked at me one day and he was like, I was making a new slide deck and he says, Matt, you know, you've shown this to 15 different audiences and you still barely covered 2% of the world. Like, you could probably keep using this deck and people wouldn't care. And I'm like, but I get bored.
You know, yes, I'm the same way. Some people reuse the same deck for like years. It blows my mind. But so really quick, before we dive into the deck side of things, I want to ask you about the role that you play with PAX 8. And it's really sounds like you're not only bridging that gap and helping with better communication with those MSPs, but you're leading with empathy and like actually kind of understanding and creating relationships. Am I correct in that? Like, kind of like talk about, because I really think that this industry needs to know it's not about just always mandating security, but instead educating and teaching and understanding where they're coming from.
100%. And to a constituency that for the most part didn't sign up for this. I guess the way I would say it, right? Most managed service providers for small to mid-sized business, their whole reason for being is to be efficient, reduce the cost, provide better efficacy at a lower cost for a small to mid-sized business, right? It's to try to make that. So their job was to be as efficient as possible, right? Get their reactive hours per endpoint per month down, things of that nature. But it's now pivoted into getting punched in the face on the daily and trying to convince an unwilling buyer something that you may not even understand well enough to take forward, right? The reason I went down the learning all the certs and getting things for me, especially like the PNPT, which we'll get to in a bit, is to understand how the adversary functions so I can actually know if I'm doing things that help and give me contextual awareness. So to your point of leading with that empathy, there's an empathy of people in an unwitting position trying to walk through a ever-increasing commoditization of what they do and getting punched in the face constantly. It's you know, so it takes.
It's not if it's when, you're always going after it. I got to shout out to Space Taco. I'm so glad that you were able to make it. Always happy to have you here.
And what a cool handle.
I know.
Who doesn't
Space
like
Taco,
tacos?
like who doesn't? I
And
know.
Space Tacos seem really, really out there. Unintended.
Better than just regular tacos.
For sure.
Okay, Matt. So lock it up movement. I mean, talk about this. Isn't the Trump lock it up about Hillary Clinton?
No, not the same.
Not
the same.
totally
Little
different. We
just
want to
slightly
clarify
different.
completely different. But can you talk about the hashtag lock it up movement? What is it?
So about 3 years ago, I was watching how people behave with their technology, right? I called myself out earlier. I'll just say it now. I didn't lock my cell phone. But what I'm trying to do is find, when I walk through airport lounges and when I go to conferences, people that have walked away and left their device unlocked, right? Where they've literally said, nothing bad happens here. I'm just gonna walk away. And oftentimes it's ambivalence.
Even for like 30 seconds, I'm just gonna go throw that trash
away.
I've
filmed people that have been gone for 10 minutes.
You have.
I've got just bad ones.
You're like wondering
Homeland
if they're
Security machines left open with CGIS and CAC cards inserted. Like, And the reason for the movement is to call somewhat of a joking nature to we do this and we don't think about this risk, right? It's the same thing of like locking your car or those things. Like we just have so much positive outcome bias. We believe as humans that nothing bad's going to happen to me. This is great. And I use it to be a little bit hyperbolous of entities haven't obviously trained their people. Or empowered them to be successful in that. And I'm not saying that somebody got in a big argument with me online about the less than 1% of attacks ever happen at the physical air. I'm not making an argument that that's the point. I'm using it as a bit of an analog to say, if we're doing this here, we're doing all the other things just as poorly.
We're saving, we're using our notepad to save our
I'm storing
passwords.
data. I'm
Right.
using ChatGPT on the side. All those things are an exact
Exactly.
outcome of that.
Yeah.
in my
Have you
mind.
noticed an impact by doing this? Like
I
hashtag login?
have.
Can you talk through what have
I
you
started
noticed?
making it in Know Before You Goes.
What?
Yeah, in K-Bugs for people that go to conferences. Like Matt Lee's going to be there. If I catch any one of you guys when Matt Lee's lock it up, it's so good.
You're gonna have a
It's
picture.
so
He's
good.
gonna blast
Yeah.
you.
So like people are telling them that, and I've had a number of people say, you know, Matt, I never would have thought about this, but because I've seen these pictures so much, like I'm paranoid.
Yeah,
of it now.
it's.
And
He did
it's
leave
that.
his phone unlocked.
I
though.
totally
Just
did.
literally,
I
like-
will call myself out as well. That was
Yeah.
on me. I left
Yeah.
my phone unlocked and walked
I
away.
do occasionally, but I will not. My phone, because I have it on a 5-minute. I need to change it, but
Sure.
it's like 5 minutes. It stays open right now. I need to change that
Yeah.
to like 30 seconds again. But the computer is the key. Like, do not walk away, even if you're at your work and you trust everybody.
Yeah.
You've got to get in a habit.
I'll make you the insider threat instead of me because I'll use your account. Thank you. It was very nice of you.
You don't want to see those emails that are going to get sent when you go to the bathroom and leave your computer.
Why is
on.
Jax all of a sudden sending all of our sensitive data out to everybody?
Yeah, right.
This is weird.
Oh, God, that would be so bad. Oh my gosh. So hold on. We've got I think some chats are coming in.
Okay, awesome.
We've got Larry. Larry, thank you so much for
going
joining
on, Larry?
us. What up? What up? Oh, Space Taco's coming back again with Rhonda.
Saying hi to some others.
Yeah. Saying hi
Just
to the crew.
little audience love here from everybody. Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
I think she's peek handing you over there too. So, all right. So you are a director at your level. You're a speaker. You're an author. You're also an executive level in the executive space. And you're like a hacker too. And there's things that we've kind of talked about like your communication style. One of the things being an executive myself is, and my like working with my technical team is they have really good intentions, but they can't properly communicate what they're trying to say at the technical level to the executives and align it to business.
Nor do they want to learn
objectives.
it. Like,
Yeah, it feels like that. There's a lot of resistance. So talk about like, have you always been able to communicate well? Was there a learning curve to get when you moved into director level? Like talk through that a little bit about how you've gotten there and what makes you so effective.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the most effective, but I try hard. I'll say it this way. I really meant when I said they don't want to learn, and I don't mean it negatively. I just mean at some point, if you're trying to explain something that you need to take a decision to fix, let's say I'm trying to protect against LLMNR poisoning. And I want to come in and go, no, LLMNR poisoning. It relies on IPv6. It's a lookup method. Oh, IPv6. Let me make sure you understand. Well, 4 was this based on this number of octets, and 6 gets into them. Shoot, let's talk about IP layer. No. You need to understand layer 1 versus layer 2 versus layer. You're never going to teach that, nor should they need to learn it.
Exactly.
And so let's unpack what that means. That means that in that scenario, and I actually got to speak to the Homeland Security Committee's staffers, and I was invited to speak to Rand Paul and his team about the MSP challenge for SMBs. And the reason I was selected wasn't because, Matt, you're the smartest or you know so much. It was, Matt, I believe you have the good benefit of having the mix of analogous and rhetorical capabilities to explain something someone doesn't want to understand to somebody that is unable to understand it, right? To 86-year-old congressmen. So but the point is that you have to make analogies, I think. I think to your point, you brought up the business case aspect of it. You have to be able to tie it to the business function. But sometimes it helps to be analogous in those things so that someone can have some analog that they're able to think about, right? And one of the ones that I've used very effectively on stage has been the automobile industry. And looking at the death per billion miles traveled in the auto industry and how as that changed and as we went down this path of putting in laws, starting to pass things and changing it, it didn't take away deaths immediately, but it started getting us to a level where we're okay with that number of deaths. This number of deaths is fine. And I use that to explain that as we go through the change of cybersecurity and the way we deal with the way we make code and the way we deal with what we're dealing from a security practices and all the things we're dealing with, like those are analogous to the beginnings of that auto industry starting to kind of shape up, right? And to actually get to a point where it was manageable. And so the point, and back to your point of how did I get good at communicating with people in that way is through failure. Because you're right.
You live and learn.
I didn't do well at this. I've been that guy to bring in the giant, tons of stats, all the stuff to try to sell somebody on something at an executive level and completely failed. Where it would be much better to come in with a small analogy or a story and then the ability to tie it to some business function that makes sense. Because then everybody can nod and go, I get this challenge with cars and how they were a real problem and how we fixed it. And it's that type of stuff. So
it sounds like examples, like lower level examples to be able to drive what matters the most to them. If it's business objective, but simplify, it could be even a sports analogy to
100%.
get them to kind of understand that and tie it to something that makes sense to them.
Sports analogy, 100%. For example, why would I play football? In fact, if you have I love this one. I was speaking about why you should learn adversarial things and why you should dig into threat hunting, why you should do those things. Imagine you're saying, as a coach, you watch a coach of a professional football team come out as a defensive coordinator and say, I'm not going to allow a single yard. They're never even going to move the football. I'll stop them right there, all 4 downs every time. You would laugh at them.
Yeah.
And now even more, if that same defensive coordinator said, I've never watched offense, I don't understand how it's played, you can throw the ball, you would know they're an idiot. But we do this every day in our world. We go, I'm a defender, I'm blue team. I don't even know that red team stuff. I'm great, I can stop it. We've got this. And it's that. And to your point, it's those analogies.
Very good analogy.
That bring in that comparison for
that
people
completely
to
makes
understand.
sense. Yeah, it'd be like, we're never going to get attacked. We're never going to have an incident and a breach. It's still like cyber resilience. It's probably an if. It's a when, not an if.
It's about blast radius reduction. It's about those things.
Yes,
and then you can use that same analogy to say, no, it would be better if that coach said, I'm going to hold them to those first 3 downs every time. We're going to have a strategy of limiting their running of these 5 players that we understand. And we're going to know that they can throw the ball, but we can do that in deep coverage and we'll hold them. That I can handle.
Yeah.
That's realistic. I can take that. But if somebody says I would never let a breach, this is why it goes back to those absolutes we hear from the vendors. Vendors are making practitioners dumber by saying things like, I'll never let a breach happen. Would have stopped all threats. Except for this scenario and these conditions and this race set of conditions, right? And so anyways, I think it's analogies help people understand problems they don't have the capacitance to go understand.
You said that you learned this through basically a trial and error in a way, like hard knocks. Did you have a mentor along the way that like pulled you off to the side and were like, hey, Matt, you did this brief. You could have really done this better. You really like I had that happen to me. And I literally, it was
I'm looking at you, Tony Miller. I love you.
It was terrible. It was like this watershed moment. Actually, the person reached out to me recently. I haven't seen him in like 4 years. He reached out to me and was like, hey, you look like you're doing well. I was like, a lot better than 4 years ago.
Yes. It's funny because I used to have an executive translator. Like my VP of operations was my executive translator. He's like, listen, you just come talk to me. Don't go talk to them about this stuff and I'll translate. And it was a lot of that helped me understand, why am I having to have a translator? Where am I failing? What's the challenge? And that's where I kind of came on my own conclusion of, we're trying to teach people things that they have no basis. And there's no other industry who do this. I don't have my attorney going, no. You need to understand Anglican law structure. Based on precedent, these 17 cases and the way they hook together have this level, but this one's actually not ever happening. And we would actually be mad at $345 an hour.
Why do you think that happens in our field so much?
I know exactly why that happens.
Yeah.
We have no barrier to entry. I literally could know nothing. I might know nothing and sit here and talk about it. There's no way to tell. And I think one of the things that plays out in our world, and if you look back over history, doctors went down the same path, right? In the beginning, doctors could put leeches on your leg or cut it off. That was kind of the things they could do. But as that grew and grew and grew and grew, you eventually found the formation of an AMA. You eventually find this formation of what is good as a set of standards and as a body. We haven't gotten there. We're in still the early stages of this where literally most people that are in this career did something else and just found themselves in this career. And so you just don't have that legitimization that exists. It's the same problem you talk about with job roles and asking for 5 years of experience in something that's only been there 2 years. Like we just haven't normalized. Thank you. We just haven't normalized this expectation. We did. We got the gallery laugh. It's good.
He's making people laugh.
And so I think the takeaway is that we are in those early stages where you just have to be a little faster than the other guy running from the bear. And we haven't been legitimized. Once that happens, it would be like my CPA, right? They have the AICPA. There's some formation there. ADA. I can kick out my dentist if he does bad with my teeth. In fact, almost every state, I shaved my beard 2 years ago for $220,606 in charity.
Awesome.
We had to hire a $5,000 barber that was licensed in the state of Florida because apparently this grows back and you can do it, but you have to have a license in 6 weeks of school. But I can be me with nothing and I can destroy your world in seconds. Right. And it's just wild, but that's why.
I gotta say though, speaking of the beard, I mean, Space Taco is like, bro, that beard is epic.
It's 2 years, November 12th. It'll be
loving the convo. Again. I'm loving the convo too. Matt, Tom, great to see you. Thank you for joining. And then we've got Larry. That's the beauty of analytical thinking.
It's fair.
Boom.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm a fairly logical engine here. Yeah.
So, okay, let's pivot a little bit. So we had kind of a, WTF moment in the industry. What has it been? Month and a half, 2 months now?
Not much.
I feel like it hasn't been long, but it has been
bird
long.
of prey thing that rhymes with Crowdstrike or something, I think might have been the thing.
The stock is going up though, so I say buy the stock. They're gonna recover. But yeah, Crowdstrike.
Yeah.
Not an incident, not like a hacker incident, an adversaries in their environment, but a legit incident that literally crippled the world. For about 48 hours or so.
It's like, not to make light of anybody's pain. So I'm not doing that. But it is delicious. And the reason I say that is it's such a great thought experiment of where we are. Jen Easterly, director of CISA, came out about a week and a half later. I think it was 72 hours later, and she made a meme. And it was the guy at the table going, prove me wrong. And she said, we do not have a cybersecurity problem in this nation. We have a software quality problem in this nation. Prove me wrong. And what's interesting is, just to take this to a little bit of hyperbolous context, is she's basically saying that the reason this happened is the fact that Crowdstrike was able to release something that addressed memory that was not addressable, caused crashes, should have been detected fairly quickly in any QA testing at all, was able to roll that forward. And then there's the other byproduct of how much everybody else's shitty software was dealing with that. And I'll give you an example. If I had Crowdstrike installed on a server and it was a server named Bill, and that Bill is my pet that I keep around forever, and he's not an ephemeral resource and he's not infrastructure as code, then Bill has to come back as Bill for me to be back up, which means I have to fix that Crowdstrike agent and get it back up and all the other dependencies along the chain. But if I was a more modern application, if I'd been written in a modern era, I'd be infrastructure as code. I'm being a little summative. Anybody wants to make fun of me, it's fine. But in a modern era, I would have infrastructure as code, and me re-rolling Bill is now just Bill clone that I re-roll in seconds. And it's obviously at that point not going to have the same problem. A lot of the challenges we faced for certain entities and the impact it made was based on their ephemerality of resources and the way they function, notwithstanding the desktops. But my point is this Crowdstrike incident exposes so many different pieces of how broken we are, right? And she's making a joke and being a little hyperbolous by saying, we don't have a cybersecurity problem. We obviously do. But it is a byproduct of having shitty roads and bridges. And I'll make an analogy, as I'm one to do. If you're driving down a bridge and you start seeing giant chunks and cars halfway sticking out of the road deck and things falling off the side, you probably don't drive down it, right? But we have 50,000 CVEs and vulnerabilities by mid-year. Our bridges are falling apart, and we drive down them every day. And the reason is we're ignorant to it, right? And it goes along with a theory I've had called the middle theory.
Do you think, though, that ignorancy is like, it's not going to happen to us kind of mentality? A little bit. Of like, it's not going to happen to us.
But not really, in the sense that it would be almost as if the holes in the bridge were invisible to you, right? And what I mean by that, the average layperson, and I have a theory called the middle theory that's basically just a restatement of capitalism, saying that products don't fall much below and rise much above the maturity of their consuming entity. If I make a better spoon and it costs me more and I can't sell it for more, no reward, right? And now I'll put that in code. If I have a report of a vulnerability that could be a problem that I need to code out in a sprint cycle, and a feature that will get me 4 new signed deals as it's done, which one gets the sprint cycle? And if most of your consuming entities are so immature, they don't know how the code's made, they're not looking at it from a built with or an infrastructure perspective, they're not thinking about those risks or uneducated about them, or it's not transparent, then we're ignorant to it. You can have years of tech debt that I'm ignorant to, and we'll make decisions based on that until something like this blows up. And I'm not making it one-to-one correlative, but I am saying the average populace can't be held to know these things. And in every other industry, nuclear engineers go to nuclear school, right? And we're at a state where you expect that professionalism to hold that delineation. We haven't been there. We've made it caveat emptor. So in this country.
Speaking of like the quality of code, I know that CISA came out with a couple of years ago, Secure by Design.
March of 2023 specifically.
That has been a big push to ensure that our code is secure prior to going out into production. How can we do that better? Like executives be able to push that to ensure before we go to production, we make sure that the code is ready to go, because it goes back to resourcing, in my opinion, from my lens. But how do we, like, is this something
if I had that answer,
right?
We'd be billionaires. I think anytime you have a systemic capitalism challenge and function, capitalism corrects. And over time, it will start to happen, right? You're already seeing it. Just the level of publicity since Colonial Pipeline, major vulnerabilities, solar winds. You're starting to see enough populace awareness that the ignorance factor, at least from a contextual perspective, starts to go away. Once that happens, then consumer choice starts to drive that. And I'm being super, super shortening of a very long-term answer. I think in the short term, if you're an executive, it would be about leaning into product quality. I think that's the way I would function is how can I get it to where the user experience is better, the user interface is better, and the product quality is better, which should drive forcing functions to make the underlying code better.
Yeah.
Is kind of the way I would look at it. I think that I'm ignorant to a lot of the forces in the enterprise space that drive this, but I will say I do a lot of work with SaaS providers, and I get to see the ugly insides of it, right? And there's so many things that unless you have a populace that's aware of the challenge, they just don't drive change.
Speaking of that in-user experience, and really quick, I want to, before we go into in-user experience, put a pin in that really quick. We've got Professor Blackhawk is in the house.
Nice.
So thank you for stopping in. Love seeing you. PBO. Oh yeah, Professor Blackhawk.
Oh gosh, there's.
Man, you guys are just blowing it up over here. Okay, Larry. Oh baby, that Street Fight shirt. That is a Street Fighter.
It is a Street Fighter shirt. The beard hides it a smidge, but yeah, it's a Street Fighter shirt.
Professor Blackhawk. We don't even teach secure coding and computer science. Ooh.
Get the code out the door, make it work. And AI is going to solve that for us, right? Because it'll just make the code.
Oh man. And then we've got shout out for the evening stream. Good chat. Thank you, Larry. Happy to have you here. So what did I put a pin in? Short-term memory. What was it? What was our?
I don't know.
We put a pin.
It's way pinned.
I was like, what did we put the pin in? I was like, put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. I don't remember what we put a pin in. If you guys remember what I put a pin in, tell me.
Yeah, let us know. Help us out here. Be assistant.
We're going to do a mid-show pause for a second because I want to give you a gift.
Oh, that's awesome. I brought you something too.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so got some gear, guys. If any of you, some of you may not know, some of you do know, I have another podcast on Simply Cyber with Erica McDuffie called Two Cyber Chicks. Yeah. We're in season 5. We've been going for a little while. So I made some gear so I can just have fun out here and wear my gear. At the same time, I also got you a shirt because you are 2 Cyber Chicks now.
I am super stoked about that. And it's even in my size.
Of course
We're on a wonderful. I have you a lock it up sticker.
Oh, yes. There we go.
People do not like if you place this on their keyboard as a sticker. Like, don't take the back off. They get real mad if you do that. And then also a Cyber Matt Lee.
Pink. Oh, I love it. You guys check that.
My brand colors.
I got to love the pink. So,
we got together ahead of time, made sure we had the same
pink. Boom. Make sure you guys find him on LinkedIn. He's pretty easy to find, Matt Lee, and he has the long beard. Are you going to be shaving that beard again? No, never again.
Never again.
Was that traumatizing?
It was pretty bad.
Oh yeah, I had to shave my head one time, and it was traumatizing.
Okay.
Yeah, it went from here to 1/4 inch, and I don't. It's the same for men though. Beard is like was pretty.
I mean, it's just. I mean, I'm feeling hurt and vulnerable right now. Yeah, it was about here. So,
and it was. Oh gosh.
Yeah, and it's got more grays than I remember.
I know your wife is like, he's not going to let him do that one again.
No, it was literally on.
Did you cry a little bit?
More than a little.
Oh, I would have.
Dog wouldn't kiss me. In fact, I called my son because he was dealing with something at the house, and he was like, "Where's Dad?" And I'm like,
Oh, that's even worse. It's like
I look like a fat baby cherub. It's not good. It wasn't becoming. No.
Whenever any guy like has a beard and they remove it, you guys always look completely different.
It's not great for if you wanted to hide one day.
Like,
great for us. I mean, other than the eyes,
But you raised how much again?
220,606.
That's amazing. So
Mike Jones helped us.
So you'll never do it again.
I won't shave mine.
Yeah.
I've actually been asked for a reprisal. I've been asked for a reprisal. I might get some other
Mike Jones. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, I think he's doing great. I've seen him.
Yeah. Shout out to Mike Jones. Love that guy. All right. So we're at the Wild West Hacking Fest. Some would say cybersecurity is like the Wild West, and we'll kind of play on that theme.
100%.
What would you say right now in this space is kind of like a gold rush or a new trending thing that people are hopping on, and they're just like, hey, I got this really cool tool, and there's some of this on top. It's like whipped cream on top of it. You hear it all over the place. What is that for you?
In my market segment specifically, right? So the SMB serving MSPs, they're very much starting to understand this concept of governance, right? Like, not to be GRC mafia call out here, but you're starting to see people lean into actually having, and this may sound stupid to people in enterprise that may already have these, but most of these small and mid-sized business don't have an SSP, system security plan. They don't have a WISP. They don't have governance methodologies or GRC methodologies that exist. And at the same time, a lot of these SMB serving MSPs are finding their world commoditizing. And what I mean by that is if you've ever deployed an Exchange server and then you went to Office 365, the delineation is pretty stark.
Yeah.
I'm not setting IRQ ports on cards anymore either. And so a lot of the work we're doing is now becoming quite scriptable, quite scalable, quite repeatable. A lot of those entities aren't code producing entities. They're buying some SaaS software from somebody instead of a line of business server. And so you're now starting to get to a world where the work we were doing is not as valuable, right? The white glove of making my Microsoft work isn't as white glove, right? Comparative to what used to be. So with that commoditization, you see that being backfilled with security offerings, security capabilities. Some of it's stuff they should have already been doing, but a lot of it's GRC, governance, risk compliance aspect.
How do you see that pivoting as this continues to move forward? Do you see it changing as we move ahead in the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, 100% I do. And I'll make a pretty bold statement, but I'm part of a CSA Zero Trust working group. And one of the things we talked about when we were writing this guide, it was 176 pages of teaching enterprises how to convert brownfield legacy technology to ZTNA workloads. And it talks about all the stakeholdership and what we have to deal with and the testing and the software requirements. And I said, y'all, what if I was one of those companies I just talked about that started in the cloud, identity centric? If they are code producing entities, they're using modern CI/CD pipelines, using modern function services, they're using modern infrastructure as code models. If I was in that way, and I was consuming SaaS predominantly, how much difference in this guide would need to exist? We basically wrote one paragraph that says, ignore the last 175 pages.
Wow.
You can just start workload by workload. Right? In the sense that they're all the same bolt and the same nut. They look the same. They taste the same. I don't know if you taste bolts and nuts, but the point is they look the same.
Right.
And so they work the same way every time. So back to your point of where is this going to go? I think that a lot of the commoditization will turn into automation. I think a lot of these things that we do for our customers, I'll do an automation. I'll give you an example. I onboard a new client. Their tenant shows up in my Microsoft space. I send an email with a video to all their employees through the API that I have access to saying, hi, I'm Matt. Or I'm Jax, I'm your new MSP. We're going to be making some changes. We noticed you don't have MFA enabled. We're going to send you a push notification that helps you set this up. Please take action. And when they do, the next thing automates setting them up in the right group. And the next thing automates looking at their device health. And the next thing automates. And so you start getting into a world where automation backfills commoditization. But it doesn't solve it completely because then again, it's just a commodity. So you start seeing a pivot to where companies are getting MSPs and security professionals deeper in their business. Understanding how you work, and understanding what makes you more profitable than your competitor with the same tools. So I think there's a pivot towards deeper consultancy in our world from that commoditization.
That is the white glove in a way then.
That's the new white glove.
That's the new white glove. So again, it's like the personalized experience, it sounds like, is what you're saying. Is where you're seeing.
Imagine getting your new hire and they get the laptop that's ready to just sign in as them. They've got that sweet new swag that came, their sweet stickers. They get that nice little introduction basket. Like all that might be being done automatedly by an MSP. Adding that value down the road, right? And doing those things. And the other thing I've seen recently is there's an MSP that serves in the title agency specifically, like settlement agents and closing agents for title. And that's all they do. And they now have gotten so deep that they understand resware and the way they would implement resware. And they now are helping them and do optimization and automation inside their building and using AI and LLMs because they're so deeply aware of what needs to be done in that space. And so you have this really, really verticalized experience capability that starts to play out from that as well.
I think experience is the key here within everything. 100%. I feel like it's
always, right?
Everybody's even the viewers here, you guys have come not only to hear amazing Matt Lee give his expertise, but for the experience. So I do think that's going to be shifting collectively in this space. So pivoting a little bit, because you have a background in the small to mid-sized businesses. And a lot of times when you talk to these smaller sized businesses, they just think because they're smaller, they're mom and pops, whatever, they're not going to be hit. They're not going to be targeted. They're probably going to, but what they don't realize is likely they're a soft target for this. So what is one myth that you've noticed in this space with SMBs and cybersecurity that literally would just drives you nuts, drives you crazy, and you try to address?
Well, you triggered it. It's the one, right? It's the won't happen to me, can't happen to me. And there's a lot of factors in that. I think one of them being positive outcome bias. Why do I play the lottery if there's almost no chance of me winning? It's a positive outcome bias.
That's
you believe it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I would also say that the reason they believe it won't happen to them is they don't understand the forces around them. And I'll give you an example. A friend of mine adopted a girl as a kind of like a foreign exchange person that he was helping as a mentor out of the Ukraine, right? And he went to her graduation as she graduated high school, and he took all of her and her friends out to the nicest restaurant in this little city. They drank the Coke that they don't refill, that you have to pop the cap off of, the per drink bottle. Like they went fancy. And afterwards, she saw the bill and lost her mind. and said, I'm so sorry, David. I can't expect you to pay this. And he looked at it and it was $130 in US dollars. And I used that point to say that an average Ukrainian citizen is like 17 grand a year. So if they can pop a mom and pop and get 30 grand, they've made 2 years of salary.
Oh, wow.
So it's a problem there that people don't understand the forces at play. Right. And Russian citizen, I think, is like 30,000 a year. So you put yourself in a position where I would just rather go rob from you and I don't need much. I don't have to hit a big one. And then there's the other side of this that is those same SMBs are massively below the poverty line for cybersecurity. They don't have a fancy CISO. They don't have somebody that's doing this work in threat hunting and an MDR team and a SOC team and incident response. They don't have that. So who would I rather attack?
Yeah.
And if I could find a juicy
one, right? Yeah, because they're going to be an easier, softer target.
And my talk here today, tomorrow, is about those MSPs, because now you have a soft target of SMBs. But oh my God, what if I crack one of those MSPs? I now have 67 to 700 SMBs to pwn through their own tool, and I own the tools. I can turn off the antivirus. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, is the posture of those, because they're also at that maturity level that they're below the maturity because they're not being forced. They don't have a consuming entity. It's higher maturity, and I can prove that. Enterprise has a higher maturity and demands more of companies. Still not enough, but they have a higher maturity. And so you see them ask for more. But the big myth is that.
So I have two questions on that, but really quick, Kat, before you go, Kat's over here. Can you get this little pink thing? Actually, come here and say hi to everybody. And then will you grab that pink thing and help plug in this laptop before it dies?
I know.
There's a charger and everything in there.
Yeah, totally.
Say hi to everyone. Come. Hi.
Yeah. And quick enough the laptop doesn't die.
They're always together. Like they're the traveling duo. So yeah, here's this and the power cord here, and then you can just plug it in. Thank you so much.
You rock.
Yeah, I don't think
that's good. That was good operational awareness right there. You know,
I looked up and I was like, oh man, I didn't get my computer.
We're gonna die. This thing needs watts.
So your talk, let's talk. Share a little bit about what you're gonna be. I want two things. I want to talk about supply chain attack, because that's still very critical. CMMC is the reason that's getting rolled out. But let's talk about what happened. Nope, we're back.
No, we're back. Okay, look at us. We got this.
We got this. So share a little bit, and you guys let us know if you've lost audio or something weird happened, because we just needed to plug in the laptop, and it's good now.
Oh, that's great. Look at this from Larry. Larry says, someone with a Ukrainian friend. It's very accurate. The difference was eye-opening when they told me what their salary was. Right? It blows my mind. And so it's those forces that affect that. So back to your point of what am I talking about?
Perspectives. Oh, everybody that really related to what you were saying. That makes me sad. Oh, Larry said something. He said, whoa, intro basket swag. Sounds like I'm working at the wrong place.
True story. Tom Bishop. I think last I checked, I was at 29. 29 or 30 this year.
Wow.
Total though, you can go search hashtag lock it up. There's tons of people doing it now. It's awesome. And if you want to do it, get on the game. The only rules I would say is no information visible on the screen. Don't be the data breach, please. And then also don't tag the person. I don't like doxing humans. Let them figure it out. They know who they are. They know their laptop.
A lot of people loving your beard. Just to say, Rhonda, her husband refused. He should
never.
Rhonda, it sounds like he's never going to raise money and shave his beard off. So everybody's
Chris Roberts told me to go chuck rocks. Yeah. So he's not shaving his beard either.
No fist fights. Professor Blackhawk, he got almost into a fist fight with the dev teams about OWASP.
Oh, yeah. Gotta love me some OWASP.
So... all right, we're good to go. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
So the talk. I did a talk. I accidentally did a talk 3 years ago with two friends of mine, Tom Lawrence, Tom Lawrence from Lawrence Technology Systems, and then Jason Slagle. We were at a CompTIA event, and a speaker got his flight canceled. And he was talking about how he would hack MSPs. And we're like, I could get in on this combo.
You're like
this is great.
This is awesome.
So we
did you really?
We did it in 20 minutes of prep. We just walked through live tools. We just showed people.
Did you put a deck? Oh, so you did.
No, we just used live tools, the whole thing. No deck. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
We did this talk called How I Would Hack You. And it went really, really popular. So we did it 3 more times to about 1,000 people probably. And we said, you know what? Maybe we should do this. We're not professionals. Jason and I don't live as pen testers, right? And so we said, maybe we can go look at and see if there's a data project we could create. And so we called the Hackening, is what we ended up calling it. It's the Hackening. It's
like the awakening.
Yeah. So it's the Hackening, right? And what we did was we partnered with Tom Lawrence, John Hammond, Plextrack, a bunch of other people have given us resources for this. Linode, I don't want to leave anybody out. There's a bunch of them. Anyways, sorry. But we wanted to do a data project where we looked at MSPs. So we asked MSPs to sign up for a pen test. Now, it might surprise most of y'all to know that even though Control 18.1 says you should have it, MSPs aren't doing pen tests on themselves for the most part, especially not that constituency. And so it's way outside of their price barrier, $15,000 to $28,000, like for an engagement. They're not necessarily in the space to spend that. So we decided we would bring together resources, start gathering data. We put together a legal agreement for a 1-year pen test, like ridiculous legal agreement. And a lot of it was just to try to showcase where these MSPs are. Like 25% of them are using WAFs. I mean, 75% of them are not using a WAF in front of the systems that they manage, right? Like, and so you have this world where we're just trying to show that contrast. What we didn't expect was how bad we were at doing this by comparison to people in tradecraft. Like, sure, I can do vuln scans and I can execute against things and I can find identities and we can do enumeration, we can do all those things. But Microsoft makes it really hard to do phishing. A lot of the pen testers like Black Hills would not want to give away their TTPs because they still work for them, right? And so a lot of these things are playing out. And so we just basically put together a talk to show the community that doesn't usually get exposed to MSPs or SMBs the state of the union. And the last piece of it, which we're close enough to this that hopefully nobody sees it before then, is we're going to have a call to action. We have a charity that we've set up that allows us to give some legal protections to allow students, colleges, professional pen testers to adopt an MSP and do a pen test and give back to herd immunity when you believe that 43% of the GDP is served by these MSPs. And so when you start getting into that understanding, we wanted to do a project that engaged the community and helped solve a wrong. And an unsolvable challenge. You know,
when is your talk?
Tomorrow, right before yours.
Oh, really? One?
Yeah, right before yours.
So I'm gonna get to go to your talk.
Yeah, totally. And they put me in the small room, thank God. So at least I have none of that fear.
I don't know what
in
room I'm in. I probably should look.
You're probably a giant room.
I hope not.
You're a giant room type talk. I'm a baby room talk.
I like the baby room because then if it's over full, like
you feel good because it's over full. You're like, bro, it's bursting at the seams.
Yeah.
Bring the 3 people that fit on this stool in here with me. We'll call it a day.
Then I feel like I've accomplished it. Sold out. You can only fit 3 people.
We're done. We sold it out.
Sold out. Speaking of talks, like you do a lot of public speaking. Was that something that came natural to you?
No.
Oh,
horrified.
Wow, really?
Like,
Talk
genuinely
about that.
horrified.
Because you're so natural and charismatic. Do you get nervous at all?
Yeah,
now?
not as much. No,
Okay.
That's gotten better. I usually only get nervous at those like really scary moments now, like this one, like being at Wild West Hack and Fest as a like completely baby practitioner speaking about things to people that are well educated in what I'm saying. You know, I might be an idiot. So there's that. But usually no. But I will say when I first started, it was mostly right before COVID. This would have been 2017 was my first speaking. And I actually have every badge that I've ever gotten in order.
Yeah.
It's a real problem.
That's cool.
But I did my first engagement in Puerto Rico and I couldn't even I was nervous, shaking.
Yep, I know that feeling.
It was terrifying, 100%. That deep breath.
Like
feeling.
I couldn't hold anything.
It would be very apparent.
And I had to almost yell because my voice would go away.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, it's terrible.
And then when we got into, after March of 2020, when the world stopped and we all stopped traveling, we went to virtual presentations. Yeah. Now I had this opportunity to listen to myself again.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yeah, it was pretty.
I hated it. I couldn't listen to myself for a year. And I was like, I sound like that? Why are people not laughing at me every day? Like, this is horrible. But I think over time, you get better at accepting your own humanity. Yeah. The other thing that bothers me is when I'm saying something and I'm wrong. Right. Yes. But I've gotten better at going, that sucks. Made a mistake. Next.
Moving on. I love that. That's such a good fact and point right there when you're doing, it's so hard not to wave at all.
There's so many cool people walking by.
So many cool
Way
people.
better beards too. You just have to see it.
I've been holding it in and just doing head bops when they
I've just given up.
Yeah. But the owning when you make a mistake on the stage, I think that's really important to know that you're not going to know everything. And it's okay. Like if some questions, like, I sometimes not really too much anymore, but there's still times when questions happen that I'm like, oh my God, what is somebody going to ask me?
I've straight up told people on a question, I'm like, I don't know the answer to that question.
That was me, like ACI learning. There was a really technical question that even Daniel didn't know. And I was like, I don't know that one.
Maybe that's a piece of advice for someone. Don't fake it. If you don't know the answer, just be humble.
Yes.
It ain't hard to say, I'm sorry, I don't know that.
It does
cost
relieve
nothing.
A lot of stress.
Yeah.
But do you have a hack? Like I know that I made a little bit of a hack when I do public speaking. Like I'll do a breathing, I'll do like the whole, like I've done it all. I used to practice in the mirror. Like what's your hack to make sure you're prepared, you're confident? Just Practice.
No, I don't.
No?
I don't. You can ask Jason Slagle. Like we're not even done with our slide deck for tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna show up the 2 hours before the stage and be ready. So no, I think what I would give as advice for people is at some point long term, it'll get easier. Everything in life, right? Riding your first bicycle to doing it 20 years later, you just get good at it. So in the beginning, I think don't think highly of yourself. Don't deal with that humility challenge. I think that's the biggest thing for people to take away is like,
we've all been there.
But then there's a unique aspect. Maybe I'm wrong. Tell me your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
I think at some point when you get up and do these live streams, everybody knows how scary it is.
Yeah.
And people automatically, just because you're doing it, put you on a pedestal for doing it. I believe there's some amount of Jax can do it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
She must be amazing. She's got to be better than me. It must not bother her. It must not affect her.
Yeah.
Bull. Right. And so I think there's that gives you that. But the other piece is when you're on stage, there's such an imposter syndrome, at least for me, right? There's a, why am I here?
Yeah.
How am I sitting here?
Yeah.
Like there's so many other people that have so much to say. How am I here? I think that'll never go away.
Yeah.
I hope it never goes away. I don't ever want to be that guy that's like, no.
It's the humility of being at a place of gratitude. Sophie!
Oh, that's a great way to say
Sophie!
it.
Oh shit! Come here.
No, join in. Say hi.
Everybody. Sorry. This is Sophie with ACI Learning. Hi.
I didn't know you were live. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're good.
Nice to see you guys.
It's good to see you guys. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I think it's like the humility of like being at a place like when I got offered to speak, it's like being at gratitude because there is other people they could ask, especially here. Like
100%.
This is such a small community here.
I'm living the dream right now.
Yeah.
This is
and it
wild.
is even in other talks, like when I got accepted at RSA, just being humble, I was terrified to an extent.
Dude,
like
that was this year. This was San Francisco.
Yeah.
4 months ago. Yeah.
I wasn't as nervous as I've been in the past, but I was certainly nervous. And I don't think it'll ever go away. I think there's some humility to that.
Yeah.
But I do think like practice. And if anybody's out there and they're like, I want to do speaking, I don't have enough knowledge. Like you do have enough knowledge and people want to hear from you. I think
you have something to share. You have a
Yeah.
contextual understanding of something someone
Yeah.
may not have. You have a different paradigm of understanding that could be important. Like 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's the other piece. Try to speak in things that are just on the edge of where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. At least for me, that's what I like to do is if you stay in the comfortable, you'll never grow.
Yeah. 100%.
But if you live on that edge of comfortable, you can go to moments where I've genuinely gone, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
I actually had a post once and it had like 140,000 views and it was an AI image of me behind stage, terrified about speaking in front of Fortune 100 CISOs.
Oh my God.
I'm like, what do I have to say to
Yeah,
Fortune 100 CISOs? I work with 25 user environments. Sure, 20,000 of them, but by God, there's a big difference. And I got to speak with them. That's one other thing I will give. There is a hack. Go talk to your audience. Go talk to your audience.
Yes, before the
build some rapport.
I used to do that too. Yeah.
It's for me.
Yeah. And then make eye contact with them. And if it's a speaking engagement, like what I'm going to be doing tomorrow is I plan on talking
I pick someone.
I'm going to be picking
100%.
and I'm going to be engaging and saying their names.
100%.
Like if you're there, I'm going to be saying your
like,
name.
Matt,
I'll be like, Matt, what's your opinion on this?
Does two things, by the way. One, makes you feel more comfortable because you feel like you're actually talking to somebody, you're not sitting in front of a spotlight for thousands of people potentially. But second, it makes them feel seen. That's one of the things that you get, Jerry gets, so many people get. All these comments that are coming in, just literally making Larry feel seen by that. And that's the same thing in the audience. Engage with those people if you've met them. When I was doing my CISO talk, I dropped an F-bomb in front of 120 CISOs in the Fortune 100. Why? I went and learned my audience and learned that they would land and it would be okay and that they would get it. And then I had 2 or 3 people to point at and go, remember when we talked about this? And this is it was so valuable. And so I think that's the big piece for me. Is
and
talk
it's
to your
completely
audience.
normal to feel nervous. You do have to get out there. And like you said, it's growth. So really quick, I've got to say shout out to Kimberly. Kimberly, I'm so glad that you were able, she wanted to jump on. She remembers when you had a pink beard. So Kimberly, unfortunately, can't be with us. She's battling the next hurricane that's coming in.
So many people. Heart goes out there.
Yeah, there's so many that weren't able to make it due to that. But I'm so happy you were able to jump on here, Kimberly. I love you so much, girl. And then I love this one. Somebody was like, hi, Sophie. Bye, Sophie.
Yeah, hi, Sophie. Bye, Sophie. See ya.
Let's see if there were any questions. If you guys have any questions, because we're coming,
ask away.
We've got
can
like
AMA
the last
thing.
11 minutes. We can also AMA, but I do have a couple more just fun questions. All right, so let me remove this. Okay, so all right, so we're all cyber nerds here, and we all have kind of our like tools that we like to have, that software, whatever that is, that is like our go-to, gotta have it. If you could only have like one tool, one software, something like that, what would it be? You can't live without it. What would it be? I know what mine is.
Mine's Entra ID.
Oh, tell what?
And that doesn't have to be Entra. It could be Entra or Okta or Ping or blank or blank or blank or blank. Everything starts with identity, bro. Everything starts with identity.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all identity.
If you don't have identity, I mean, that's an HVA. That's a level 1, level 0 HVA.
Yeah.
That's down. You can't do anything.
Yeah, I need identity.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and identity also, I think, speaks towards where the future of cyber is going in some way. Like, if you think about looking back at technology and the way we look at cyber, in my opinion, it's always been very event and infrastructurally driven. I just got this alert and it means this happened.
Yeah.
I've just gotten these things and it means this happened. But there's no context to the data usually. There's no context to the identity in that space. But I see the world shifting and pivoting to very identity-centric, right?
Yeah.
I think it was like 86% of attacks were identity-centric in some form or fashion. And so in my mind, those platforms are the unified place I can see everything my user does.
Yeah.
If I do it right, I can see every tool they consume. If I'm SSOing and using scam provisioning and other things, I can start to get one basis as a place to figure out what's happening and limit blast radius, do my principal of least privilege, put in access control lists, use attribute-based access control, do things that let me reduce. What I used to say to people is, and I only had 170 technicians at the time, but I said, I said at any given time, one of my 170 are compromised. There's always that jerk in Dallas, but it's somebody's gonna be compromised. Well, what do I do then? I have to live compromised.
Yeah.
I have to be in a place where I believe that I'm always compromised. And that's the beginnings of zero trust too, right? The assume breach or assume compromise. But in the same breath, I'm now saying, where's that compromise gonna happen? At the identity layer.
Yeah.
Now that might be on somebody's asset, but the identity's there. And if I now see that all of a sudden Jax went to 35 different sites she's never gone to that are all in our SSO, started pulling data and doing things from an identity centrism layer, I can apply a lot of things that I would live with just that. So if I'm on my stranded desert island, it's me and an Entra ID pillow is the answer. I
God, I love that. Okay. F-bomb is a speech. F-bomb in a speech. What is that?
Yeah.
F-bomb in a speech.
I was horrified until the clapping happened.
Oh my God.
100%.
Oh, imagine the growth when you cannonball into the deep and the uncomfortable.
100%.
So Space Taco, it sounds like you're going to be coming on a live stream soon.
That seems like it. I mean, maybe self-elected.
Yeah, I think you're going to come on one of these.
Yeah.
Like,
and actually, Larry's point, one of the things that he said there is
let's
being
bring that
authentic.
Yeah, I
right?
love authenticity.
Somebody talked about this.
Hard,
like, we talk about transparency. Transparency is about sharing everything. We can't necessarily do that, but I can be authentic. Right. And I'm stealing this from Peter Melby, but the point is authenticity shares through. Like, people would rather see the real you, which means don't pretend to be something you're not.
Yes.
Try to be you on stage. It's hard. You'll always act different.
It is hard.
But try to just be you. Be the nerdy, weird guy, Matt. Like, that's the way I've chosen to do it.
And it's okay if you don't feel like you initially. I know for me, I always felt like I was almost giving like a sermon. Like, you're like,
girl, I'm preaching. 100%.
But now I'm going to be relaxed. And I keep telling people, a talk I'm going to give tomorrow is going to be the best talk I've ever given.
For it.
Yeah, I'm really excited because I'm putting it together. I feel so confident.
Yep.
And I don't know if this happened to you, but when I was really nervous and I would get on the stage, I would almost go blank. So I would have to memorize my talk.
Never had that, thankfully.
You're so lucky. Like, it would literally fog brain.
Now I may babble.
And then I would babble. If I got fog brain, I would just start rambling. So I'd memorize my speech. But
it's gotten better over time.
We're going to be crushing this tomorrow. Both.
And which brings to, if you know the subject material really well, it's also not as hard, right? When you really, really know and love what you're talking about. So.
I think Space Talker just said, wait, my lead? I didn't do nothing. Oh, you're coming on here, Space Talker.
Yeah. We were saying that you've self-electedly said, you're ready to push your comfort zone, and therefore
comfort zone's getting pushed. You're coming on Outpost Gray. What do you guys think? Space Taco on here? Let's do this.
Yeah, they've already said so.
Okay, so predictions. I always like to know, we're in like quarter 4 of 2024, some corporate talk. So what do you think as like a projection that we're going to see happen in 2025?
2025 is going to be the year of the law. And what I mean by that is, I think even at a corporate entity all the way down to small to mid-sized business, you're at the culmination of 2 years of ramping up speed of the False Claims Act attack by the civil cyber fraud initiative from DOJ. You've got things happening in our world, legislation being passed. You've got the SEC battle. You've got the Chevron ruling challenges. We've got like so much all happening regulatorily from a law perspective. We've got a new
president that might be that will be coming in, depending on who
either
it is.
way,
And they always want to shake things up.
Yeah, and this is a real problem. We're at a point where right now cybercrime summated around the world is the third largest economy. It's growing at 15% per annum. There's no chance we don't start to put the legal aspects in place that start to begin the demise, whether that be lawsuit capabilities. I predict, if I wanted to go way out on a limb, I think we'll see our first massive and well thought out and well executed class action lawsuit based on cyber incidents and based on people making choices not to deal with debt and then having someone die. I think we will see that play out. And we've probably already seen the death play out.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen it in the major hospital systems.
Yeah. There has already been some deaths.
So I think next year, in my opinion, especially for larger entities, will definitely be the year of law. Where you'll get sued on contracts, you're going to get sued by your competitors, or you're going to get sued by your clients, by your upstream. You may sue them. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening that just isn't part of our day-to-day world today in the real state of it. So I think that'll be a big difference.
I think there's a good thing about that too, though, because accountability through it all. I do think we need to have better regulation and laws in place.
My whole life mission is a self-regulatory organization for technology providers, where at some point we have a license to be me and a license to go turn the key and turn the wrench. If you have to get a license to cut my hair, I should have to get a license to actually work on the things that end your business. If you've never sat there when a family is crying about losing everything they've ever had because of a cyber incident, you do not understand. And I think that will be what changes. Now, maybe I'm not right about the time, but you never know.
I love that. That sounds nice. We need more cyber law in place. Cyber, AI, tech laws in general.
Yep. Self-regulatory things.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we've got less than 4 minutes. What I'd like to do is final thoughts.
Sure.
Pass it to you to do some final thoughts for the group.
I think for me, my final thoughts that I would want to pass on is, and it goes back to even the talking and speaking part, have some humility. We all suck at this. Your vendors suck at this. Your clients suck at this. The software you consume sucks at this, right? So have some humility, right? I've had so many people come into my world, and they're usually practitioners, and they're saying, I can't believe my client won't do this. I can't get them to do the MFA thing I need. I can't get them to do my SOC as a service. I can't get them to do all these things. I can't get them to, and then they'll take the same time and go, my vendors suck. They won't do their SOC 2 like I want them to. They're not actually encompassing the right scope. I wish they would do better about this. They have a bad track record for these things. They don't patch well. They haven't done, and then they never look at themselves. But if they were, they don't have statements of work. They don't have shared responsibility understandings and that aspect of, they haven't had the legal contracts. They're not doing the things that I have sufficiency. So if you take that to believe that we all suck at this, let's all have a little humility. And let's all start pushing to make something better long term, right? And there's so many people in our community doing it. You, Jerry, I mean, there's just so many. But it really is a point where we absolutely have to move forward and start to have some humility and take the steps necessary to fix it. Not everybody has to survive this. I genuinely don't think that. I talk about raising the tide. Raise the tide means the water's going to go up and the boats will float, except for the poor guys chained to the ground. They're going to drown. Drown, probably more accurate. They're going to drown, right? And the point is that we really need to make sure that we try to elevate those that are going to float and very quickly and hastily destroy the ones that aren't. And I think that's what we need in this country and this globe from a cybersecurity perspective. So my thoughts, I suppose.
Oh, I love it. Thank you all. Matt, Lee, thank you so much for coming on the show and gracing the community of the Outpost. Great. You guys have been awesome. Thank you. If you're new here, welcome. I would encourage you hit the subscribe button, come back,
blink,
if I might say so. We have a pretty amazing community.
All the fancy stuff.
All the things. If you got value, share this out with 100%. Others.
And you do have something to share. That's what I'll end it with. You have something you can help somebody with, whether it's an analogy, whether it's actually giving them something, whether it's educating, whatever it is, you have something you can share. Never put yourself down.
Absolutely. And Larry, by the way, Matt, I like the beard there. Everybody loves your beard. I love it.
All God's children got a talent.
Yeah. You guys are the best. We're signing out.